Coming down off of crack is the most devastating feeling. I mean, all I can remember is total feelings of doom, like something terrible was going to happen, something terrible had happened, and usually it had. I was left with a lot of guilt because I would do anything to get money to buy more.
He introduced me to cocaine, and I really liked it. I liked it a lot, and it killed that pain. And he switched to crack, and I didn't like the crack like I liked the cocaine. I really missed that part of it, but that's what was available to me.
I had gotten it by mistake. I was with some people. We were in the diner, I don't know, it was like 2 or 3 in the morning, and somebody knew someone else, and they asked them to go get us cocaine, and he came back with crack. So nobody else wanted it, and I had already paid for it, so I said, well, I'll try it, you know, I'll do it tomorrow. And I tried it, and I really liked it.
What is the difference between cocaine and crack? When cocaine is processed out of the leaf, it's unstable. In order to be stabilized, it has to be bonded with something like hydrochloric acid. That results in a white crystalline powder, which is then packaged and shipped to North America. But once here, that white powder lends itself to dilution. It can be diluted with things like talcum powder, dextrose or milk sugar, or even powdered caffeine. That dilutes the potency of the product. People who use cocaine want to regain that full potency. So often what they will do is put this cocaine from the street through another process. By 1979, individuals had discovered that they could refine cocaine back to its former level of potency using kitchen chemistry by adding water and baking soda and cooking the resultant mix. They could get back to a product that had somewhere between 75 and 85% potency. When this product dried, it dried into hard little chunks. These chunks cannot be snorted, they cannot be injected, they can only be smoked. The crackling residue left over from the baking powder has given this product the name on the street, crack. Because crack is so easily manufactured, it can be readily made in the home or the apartment. About half of the people who abuse crack are involved in dealing it. Dealing drugs is usually accompanied by money, drug abusers, and weapons. This can increase jeopardy and danger for anyone on the premises, including social workers. What social workers should look for is high volume of traffic in the area, a great number of different people coming in and out, and crack vials or other paraphernalia scattered around the home or apartment.
This is a crack cocaine vial. The vials come in different sizes, and the different colored tops mean a difference in purity and amount. Some of the telltale signs of a person involved in manufacturing or using crack cocaine is the presence of paraphernalia, that is, a large amount of these small plastic vials, or the presence of small glassine envelopes which look like small baggies. Also, the presence of chemicals not normally associated with household use, such as ether or acetone, which smells like nail polish, will be present. Another way to know is the high trafficking of people to and from the residence that have no business being there.
Long-term, high-level abuse of crack can have the additional effect of depleting an important chemical in the brain called serotonin. In the limbic system, serotonin has the role of emotional regulation. As its levels drop, the ability to control rage impulse is diminished. This can lead to hostility, aggression, violence, and clearly increases the potential for physical abuse and assault.
I've been working with chemically dependent people for about 8 years already. And I think I operate from a premise based on that phrase, there but for the grace of God go I. I think that people become chemically dependent for a variety of reasons, and it's a matter of how many of those cards you have stacked against you, with genetic predisposition, with family of origin issues, with any kind of psychological predisposition that you might have towards using drugs to self-medicate. So it's very complicated. But I do believe that it could have happened to any of us. And for some of us, we might have had to try a lot harder to become chemically dependent to a particular drug. And for others, it started with their first use. For whatever reason, that first drink made them feel good, made them feel whole.
Basically, I did it, because I felt lonely, so it was like smoking crack and having a lot of crack. It was like having friends, people would be there, to talk to you and be around you just because you had drugs, but once your drugs were gone, it was like you were left alone again.
During my pregnancy for my son, he's going to be 2 years old now, I smoked crack through the whole thing. And when he was born 5 pounds. He had cocaine in his system. And he never went home with me from the hospital. He was taken with me directly after he was born. A couple of days later, they went to my house and they took my daughter away from me.
Trying to limit my alcohol intake was a major reason for getting involved with other drugs, because I realized I had an alcohol problem and that I couldn't control it. So by using cocaine, I could drink more.
The pain was my past. My father dying when I was 4, feeling ignored as a child, being very alone, and alcohol and drugs killed that pain. It was I was very quiet and shy, and it took me away from all that. I was able to deal with people, to talk to people, and it just made me feel like I had self-esteem or something. It made me feel good.
I think I liked cocaine because it sort of put everything else on ice, and I didn't have to deal with it. My upbringing, my family, the shit that was in my life. It was very easy for me to do a couple lines and hang out, relax, and think about where we were going to go party, and it was a numbing. It took away from everything else, and I didn't have to deal with that. I think that's why I liked cocaine so much.
For the bulk of clients that I've worked with, once they have stabilized and entered into early recovery, a lot of the anxiety disappears and a lot of the depression disappears. Occasionally, we have someone who might be bipolar and really could use a medication. But for most clients that I've worked with, those psychological, psychiatric symptoms do disappear.
What led me to treatment was I had gone through most of my money that I had saved from working in California. I was buying cocaine by the pound. I don't have a nasal septum. I was hallucinating out of my mind. I thought everything was moldy and mildew, and that the houses on the street were deteriorating. My mother was asking me what kind of drugs I was doing or if I was doing drugs. Anyone who called, she thought they were my drug dealers.
And finally I decided, one day that I needed help. And I got up enough courage to tell my mother that I needed help, that I couldn't do it alone. And her and her husband, they helped me, They called, people that they knew. And the next day I was on the bus on my way to Albany.
Until finally I realized for myself, through all the bad things that happened to me in the street, living in the street, hanging out in the street, getting involved in shootouts and robberies and all, they finally realized that I needed help, And I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. I got tired of doing all those things. I said I can't go on all my life doing this. Plus I really want to get my kids back, And if I go on doing all these kind of things, they're never going to give my kids back.
Anybody that's out late at night, they don't care about nobody. They're just out there either to hurt somebody or to get high all night. And that's the type of life that seems exciting to me. I thought it was like competition for me to survive out there. And, I realized that life is not about survival. I can enjoy life, I deserve better than that, But I didn't know that at first. I thought it was no hope. I just thought that I'm an addict. I'll always be an addict, you know. Since I went down, I could never come back up again until, you know, somebody told me that there's programs I could go into and there's people that care about, you know, what happens. It's people that are on drugs that know about, you know, how you feel, you know, with or without the drug.
The last time I sought treatment, my income tax came back and I had gone through $2,000 of crack in 3 days. And I used my first of the month welfare check and all my income tax money, and me and one other person got high. And that is a lot of getting high in 3 days. And I really thought that I was losing my mind. I couldn't control myself. I needed more. It still wasn't enough. And all the other things that led up to that, I mean, that wasn't the worst bottom I had hit in my life. What made me seek treatment that time was because there was just no other excuse left for me. There was no one who believed me anymore, no one who was going to help me anymore. There was nothing else I could do but get treatment, try it. I mean, what did I have to lose? I don't think when I went into treatment I really thought I'd never get high again. I think treatment clicked for me in rehab, but I think that was the only option I saw available to me at the time.
My daughter had already gone upstate, and I had been planning to rejoin her. She was an underlying force of my wanting to get help. I didn't quite know how, but I knew I had to. And I kept thinking about my daughter and thinking this was the first time we'd ever been separated. It had been about 5 months. And that was my foundation.
I was severely depressed. I wasn't eating for 9 days. I didn't eat or drink. I went to see a psychiatrist. He admitted me into a psychiatric unit. For 5 days I was there. And this really nice lady came up to me and handed me a piece of paper. And it was for a program, a mental health, a PRIDE program. And she explained to me that I could lose my children through this. And there was no way that no drug in this world was going to take my kids from me. And that was enough for me. The loss of my children, there was nothing in this world worth it to me than my kids.
I didn't mean to make the mistakes that I did with my kids. I love my kids very much. And I feel some guilt of what I did bringing them through my drug problem. But they need help, and it's not always easy to get help. For some reason, I was able to get there. And I know for me, trying to 12-step or help other people doesn't always work. They gotta want it, they gotta be ready for it, but it needs to be available for them. It needs to be, you know, to be mentioned.
The special problems that women have as a group are cultural and social. We tend to see women in a different setting. They don't have the same problems as men. They're supposed to be taken care of. They're supposed to be more competent in some areas, and that's not always the case. You know, women are human beings, and human beings have flaws and make mistakes and all of those other good things. Where addiction comes in is that people don't identify the use patterns in women. Many women tend to be closet drinkers. They're not seen, they're not noticed in the community, so you won't see her sloshing down the street and falling down. Many women don't buy their own drugs. Their men go and buy the drugs and bring them home. And so it becomes part of the relationship, and often the relationship can't survive when recovery does reappear. So that's another problem that she faces. Which does she choose? She might want to get clean, but he doesn't. And so then she has a dilemma. Does she give up her livelihood? Does she give up her place in society in order to get the recovery that she wants? Or does she stay in addiction in order to maintain those other surface needs? Now, generally, denial is one of the aspects of addiction that you can tell yourself, I'm okay, this isn't really so bad, I can handle what's going on. And in traditional treatment, denial is hit head on. and you call somebody a liar and you yell at them and you argue back and forth, and that's how you get someone to break through their denial. But these are women. They come from a different place. And when you attack their denial that way, many of the women have been battered, so you just become another batterer, and they've learned to turn that off. They've learned to build another wall to keep that pain from getting to them, so that the denial with women has to be confronted in a different way. That kind of head-on collision is not effective. But to get her to laugh, to get her to see herself in a silly light, to have her friends say, I love you, but you're really messing up here, it works much more effectively. These women need supports. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Most of them didn't have good relationships with other women growing up. They didn't have girlfriends. They didn't have somebody to call. Very often that's what happens when someone is relapsing. She'll tell us, there's nobody I could turn to. What about everybody else in the group? They don't understand. I'm not close to them. I don't feel like I can reach them. And those are the things that put her at risk, that lack of community. Women grow up raised with a need for community, and very often these women don't get that. And so we have to reteach that whole process to them and teach them to rely on each other and develop that sense of belonging, of having people on their side. And the absence of that is one of the things I believe puts somebody, especially a woman, at risk for using drugs again.
Many women in recovery also provide the sole support of the family. In addition to the special issues they face in treatment, they may also require an assortment of support services. A thorough needs assessment will enable caseworkers to refer appropriately to service providers for vocational rehabilitation, health and nutritional needs, and parenting skills. Transportation and daycare access are important elements in maintaining a positive treatment program. Caseworkers can explore the various kind of treatment models available to their clients. These might include therapeutic communities or other forms of residential treatment, or outpatient day treatment programs. There are also 12-step recovery programs that are widely available. There are countless stories of people in recovery. You have heard some of those today. Remember, treatment works.